Hello. Well, today I want to talk about a stream that I saw about 2 weeks ago or so, give or take. And it's something that I hadn't heard in a while. And, well, I thought it was very interesting. And, how can I get started? Maybe I'll say this word or phrase, Universe 25. Do you know what that means? Have you heard it before? Well, I hadn't heard it in a while, and when I heard it again, I thought it was quite interesting because it does have to do with psychology and human behavior and experiments. But I heard it in a place that I normally wouldn't think of hearing it. I have listened to different podcasts in the past, and I do follow a lot of podcasters, but I don't listen to. I've narrowed down the people that I listen to nowadays. But anyways, this one just kind of caught my attention, and I listened to longer than I normally do because normally I don't listen to much anymore besides TLC lately. But anyways, let me see. Let me transition this here because I think I want to show a few pictures. So what I saw, the video that I saw, it was on Impact Theory, and he's got a huge channel, and he was interviewing this gentleman here. He has his own podcast, which is starting to grow more and more as the weeks go by. So Rudy has, I think his channel is called WhatIfAltHistory or WhatIfAltHist or something like that. Anyways, but the stuff that they were mentioning was very interesting, and because I think it's over an hour long podcast, it was they started mentioning Calhoun's mouse Utopia experiment that he did, and that's where the most famous case of that experiment was Universe 25. And out of that, as far as because he did publish some papers, and after all said and done, he developed this term called, I'm blank, give me a second, behavioral sync. And this idea, this notion, as far as why this mouse Utopia just spiraled down and just went into total collapse. And this experiment started in the 50s, and it went on for, I think, 2 decades in the 70s, and he kept doing these experiments at different universes, ergo Universe 25, and the result was always the same. But anyways, I'm going to transition to this here because this is an introduction on. This is a shorter video explaining what this mouse Utopia Universe 25 is all about. So let me see if I. Give me 1 second.
Though wildly controversial when first made public, Calhoun's theory has raised concern over the years that the social breakdown of Universe 25 could ultimately serve as a metaphor for the trajectory of the human race.
And I'm wondering if you heard of this before.
The Rodent Utopia project has been a subject of interest among architects, city planning councils, and government agencies.
Back then, people were freaking out about a
early rodent
population
studies.
In the 70s.
Calhoun began his experimental research on rodents in 1947 when he studied an enclosed group of Norway rats at a barn in Rockville, Maryland. Supplying the critters with
I don't know if the
water,
volume is too high.
He expected to see their population swell to 5,000 over the course of the 28-month experiment.
Maybe it's not.
However, the population capped out at 200 after subdividing into smaller groups, each of which comprised merely a dozen individuals. Continuing with these studies during the 1950s, Calhoun set up a more complex enclosure to examine how further groups of rodents would behave in a sterilized, predator-free environment. Over the course of these experiments, the same sequence of events would transpire each time. The mice would...
Have you heard of this concept as far as universal income, where in 15-minute cities, I think you guys are in the know. I think you guys have heard this before, where universal income, 15-minute cities, you're going to have everything you need. That way you can do something you really enjoy. And since, truth is all about my feelings and my desires, well, why not, right? Universal income. So anyways, sterile environment, all the materials needed to make a nest for these mice, and this is free, predator free. So again, I know you've heard this universal income, and the guy, the CEO of the latest AI, the one that from ChatGPT 4, Sam Altman, I think he did do an experiment with where he gave some people was hypothetical universal income, like he gave them, I don't recall the numbers, like $1,000 a month to see what would happen. But anyways, are they trying to, anyways, I know you heard this before, right? But anyways, 50-minute cities with these new technologies and universal income. And anyways, this mouse, Utopia, this is free, predator free. Well, this is free because they didn't want the collapse to be because of disease. But predator free, all the food and water, and the nest to build the home, right, for the nest. Anyways, I'll let this play more.
Would meet, mate, and breed in large quantities. Eventually, a leveling off would occur. After that, the rodents would develop either hostile or cliquish or passive and antisocial behaviors. The population would trail off to extinction. In 1962, Scientific American published Calhoun's observations from his research in the article Population Density and Social Pathology, wherein he coined the phrase behavior sink to describe the results of overcrowding, namely the breakdown of social functions and the...
Okay, so now it's going to go into commercials and all that good stuff. So, but this behavioral sink, now I know what you're thinking. We are not rodents. We are sophisticated folk, and we are sophisticated folk. And on last time on the last video is, I know that we keep improving our technology, better technology, right? The phones, remember when they were plugged into the wall, and the newer technology was a longer cord, but now we have the smartphone, and this phone no longer is attached to the wall, and now we have the app store, right? We have the internet on the phone, not through wire, on and on it goes. But anyways, better technology, or how about better behavior, better values? Would that be a concept that we should have incorporated a while back ago? I think in the age of Socrates, those how long ago was that? Thousands of years ago, they were discussing ideas. Oh, that's right. I think they killed them. Anyways, the prophets from scriptures, they had some stuff that they wanted to teach, mainly the word of God, and most people don't want to hear those kind of concepts. A lot would end up being martyred. On my last video, I spoke about the early church, how the disciples were all martyred except for John, the Apostle John, but they almost did, so he survived it. And again, the early church fathers, the one that they discipled, the disciple of Peter and the disciple of John, they were also martyred. And those disciples that, like Polycarp discipled Irenaeus of Bishop Lyons, like I said, all martyred. So anyways, better technology as the centuries go by, and this is where we're at. And we're not, when do we stop trying en masse, as the popularity goes, as far as the leaders goes, trying to improve human nature, trying to improve human behavior, reality testing? Because I know you're in the know. But anyways, so as far as that experiment in the 70s, so I know this is old news, but I heard it so before I heard it on Impact Theory, and I think his channel has over 4 million subscribers, so it's not a small podcast. I also heard Mouse Utopia on Tim Pool's, I don't know if it was Timcast or on, because he does the Culture Wars on the weekend, on Saturdays, I believe, but this was this was a while back, and I hadn't heard it since. But me, I'm a sucker for anything that has to do with psychology and human behavior because of my childhood and because of where I work. So for me, I get it why I hear these things, or why I gravitate, go down the whole rabbit hole and hear these things. But this was on a big channel, so I'm assuming. So I think this aired about 2 weeks ago, and a lot of people heard it. So a lot of normal people that normally don't gravitate to those kind of ideas heard about Mouse Utopia, Universe 25, Behavior Sync. Have you heard of that before? You guys in this little corner of the internet, I'm sure you guys are in the know, because anyways, that's why I like this little corner of the internet so much, because you guys are always in the know, and you guys always have so many very good insights, so many very great conversations. And Luke Thompson is right as far as what it is to be a Christian, and how to understand that, to live it out, and to live it out as with each person in a relationship. It's all about relationships, because if you don't have the relationship right, do you even have the right concept of what Christianity is? Right? Because how are we supposed to love our neighbors if we're dysfunctional towards our neighbor? See, that doesn't make sense. I'm assuming, right? These are opinions, so you're allowed to disregard my opinions. But I think TLC and Luke Thompson, I know he keeps mentioning is that, relationships, communication, that's why he likes stories and wants to have that active listening, where he's listening to you, not just waiting to to give his remarks, but actually wants to understand the whole communication, the whole in Christianity. Love your neighbor as you do yourself, as you love yourself, right? And the first one is even harder to do, right? Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. How do you do that? That God is in the future. We might be in the future, depends on who you ask. Then in the future, God is going to seek those that worship Him in the Spirit, right? How does that happen? How do you worship God in the Spirit? What is Spirit? And what is truth? And what is Christianity? What is real Christianity, right? But, so let me go back to the Mouse Utopia, Universe 25, Behavioral Sync from Calhoun. And anyways, I just heard it not so long ago, and I haven't had time to post a remark on that. And like I said, I think it's very interesting. Now, I think I'm going to put the link for that YouTube for Impact Theory to do have a nice conversation. Again, you're more than welcome to take those as opinions. You're more than welcome to disagree with those opinions. I don't agree 100% with those opinions. But then again, who do I agree 100% with? No one, not even myself, because I changed my opinion. I think differently from 2 years ago. So there you go. I disagreed with myself. So there you are. I'm flawed. Even though I try to be better, I'm still imperfect, and I still change my opinions when I hear a better opinion. So again, this is all opinion based, and I think I can figure out how to put that link in the description. So bear with me, and I will try to make it available if you are interested in. Again, if you're not interested, that's okay as well. But they did mention as far as because all those instances in the Mouse Utopia, it was total, complete collapse of their societal structure, because rats, mice, even though they're creatures and they're not people, they are social animals, and we are very social people, right? Even though we, you hear that people, I hate people. Well, we cannot live without people. Astronauts found this the tough way, when they sent astronauts out there in the middle of nowhere, and they ended up having some whoopsies, right, where they being isolated and being with their social support system, they kind of went sideways. They couldn't handle that situation. So we do need people. And again, how can you say you hate people if you're supposed to love your neighbors as yourself? So, but then again, maybe this is coming from atheists. I get that. So anyways, in the 70s, there was a fear of too much people. The population was growing, because I think if you rewind the clock 300 years ago, we don't even have a billion people on the planet. I think the 1800s was the first time this planet had 1 billion people on Earth, and then it just doubled really quick. So in the course of never having a 1 billion to say 3 billion was like very short amount of time, and that time kept becoming smaller and smaller. And so when they were at 5 million, they were like, whoa. So I think in the 70s they were really freaking out because they weren't at 8 billion like we are now, but they were thinking that if we keep this up, we're gonna meet our demise. And I know that there's a lot of anti-human people. I know if you heard that before. I don't want to get into that, so let me go back to where I was talking about. Because in that video they discuss about the complete breakdown, and they seem to think that it has to do with overpopulation. At least with the mice, it seemed to be that. But I'm starting to think that it was maybe not. Now again, this is opinion. Excuse me, let me shut this off real quick. So as far as the collapse became when yes, they were overcrowded, and they began to, the social structure began to break down, and the dominant mice began to guard their territory more often, to the point where they forgot all about their reproductive nature as far as reproducing. So they were no longer going out to the mates because they were guarding the territory. And because of that, it was the after effect. Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. The after effect was that the females now had to go guard the nest from other non-dominant mice that came, to the point where they were so fixated on guarding the nest that they neglected the nest, and on it went. So yeah, in that instance was overpopulation, social breakdown. But right now we're heading towards a depopulation trend. You know, I know Peter Sihon wrote that book about the end of the world. It's just the beginning. If you haven't got his book, could do encourage that as well. And it is his opinion, so it is opinion based as well. So again, you don't have to accept these opinions. So yeah, some people seem to think that we're going on a depopulation. We're on a decline when it comes to that. And in the next 20 years, we're not going to be more populated, but less populated. And I seem to think, in my opinion, that what's happening today, even though he seems to think the only correlations that he sees with today's problems, by and large, with all these different, depending on the country, especially the ones that are higher in tech and more densely populated, in my opinion, I think that we are having a harder time coping with anxiety, and maybe maybe some type of dysfunctional way of seeing things, maybe because of the way we're being influenced by social media, and again, all the apps on this device, how the young bucks, 10-year-olds, right, they seem to think this is normal, and they're starting to see what normal is, and maybe they're not seeing things into perspective, and they're not able to cope with what we would seem to think normal stress, right? Talking to the boss, having a little powwow. How can you do better? You messed up today. Let's have you overcome that so you can be a better, more productive co-worker and all that. That's nothing new to us. I've been in the workforce for, I think, before I was 20. So yeah, I'm not ready to say my age yet, but all I'm saying is, in my 40s, I've had those conversations many times. I didn't quit my job. Well, I quit my job many times when I was on a downward spiral when I was younger, but that was for different reasons. But what I'm saying is, we got up and tried again, and we biffed it many times. We fell flat on our face many times, but we kept on trucking. Or so I think. But we're becoming less and less agile, metaphorically speaking, less and less able to cope with stress and what we perceive as a stressful environment, stressful situations, stressful communications, and how we maybe it's because we all have the tendency to not. So what do we fear? We fear to be rejected. We fear to look like we're dumb. like we're inferior, or we're to be called names because we're goofy looking, because we have silly accents, because we are not the greatest at sports, because we're not the smartest, because you name it, right? Fill in the blank. And because we're all flawed, right? But the person next to me is just as flawed as I am, and so far in. Yes. Is there hierarchies? Yes. Has that always been the case? Yes. From all the centuries in the past? Yes. That's nothing new. In my opinion, maybe it has to do with our perception. Maybe it's the way we look at the problem, the way we look at ourselves, the way we catastrophize everything. Maybe we're making a storm out of a cup of water. Maybe we do the it's all bad or it's all good. And what about the gray? There's a ton of gray. Remember the term outliers? How it's the majority and then you have the outliers, the positive end and negative end. And we're starting to see life through the outliers perspective. And that's just not healthy in a way. Not proper reality testing. Not proper calibration of our, how can I say, the way we see our internal world, the way we see our external world, maybe, as an opinion. What do you think, TLC? Am I way off? Have you seen that video? Have you ever heard of Mouse Utopia from the 1970s? Have you ever heard? Now, one more thing before I sign off. Where can I start? So, I did mention in other videos of mine, and there's not many if you want to look into it. So I'll say this again in case I haven't said it before, or in case you're not interested in watching the other videos. When it comes to attachment theory, how do we learn why we are the way we are? Sometimes we do come from a broken home, and that seems to be the trend. So I think in the 1950s, I think the majority had both parents in the household, and back in those days, I believe the mom stayed home. And at least that's my opinion. Today, in 2020-ish, and we're almost towards the middle, right? 2024, and it's in a few months it'll be 2025. So we're almost in mid-20s, and I don't think we have both parents in a home for these kiddos. And if we do, maybe it's not the original parent, because that's how fast things are changing. Maybe it's single parent homes. But back to where I'm saying with attachment theory, some of those experiments, there's a lot of, so the professionals there's an actual definition of what attachment theory it is in psychology books. But long story short, to make it fast, because I do have to go here, before I sign off, we learn, and we're also so dependent. So let me back up. When we're about 1 year old, or before 1 year old, but when we start remembering, maybe it's at 2 years old, when we actually start remembering, so the more people use meth and alcohol and even these things that are becoming an addiction, phones that are becoming an addiction, right? And we begin to neglect other people, and because of whatever reasons, when we neglect the 1 year old that's so dependent on the parents, they are going to struggle because they're freaking out because their life depends. So I'm starting to think that these unhealthy coping mechanisms are becoming more frequent because of many things, like Jonathan Haidt says on his book, The Anxious Generation, which I've also suggested it. So if you haven't, give it a go. I got another phone call. I do have to get going. But yes, attachment theory, that is going to become having a bigger effect, especially in the next 10 years, with the new set of 1 year olds that are experiencing this situation, and the next 20 years, I think it's going to be worse and worse. And the way we cope with their current anxieties and internal turmoil, emotional disturbances, whatever you want to call it, I think it's going to be more harder to do. What are your thoughts on Mouse Utopia, the Universe 25, the behavioral sync? Have you seen it? Are you even interested in that? Maybe you're not. Anyways, I guess we can talk about it if I catch you on your live stream. So anyways, I do have to sign off. So until next time, TLC. All right, I'll see you later.